This conference will now be recorded.
So in yesterday's session, we were trying to understand what is Ansible and the architecture of Ansible we discussed, and we just installed Ansible in one of the machine. So here in this machine, I have installed Ansible. Let me connect to this machine. I'm connecting. Sorry, let me connect to that machine. First, let me switch to the Ansible user, because as a which user I installed Ansible in this machine? I installed as an Ansible user. So let me switch to the Ansible user. So we have a Ansible. We installed Ansible. What version of Ansible we have in this machine? If you see, what version of Ansible we have? We have Ansible 2.9.27. Now using this Ansible, I want to configure some servers. I want to configure some servers like this server or any other server. In Ansible, we have a concept of host inventory. So yesterday, I updated these two server details, this server as well as this server details in the host inventory. What is the default location of the host inventory? What is the default location of host inventory? etc slash Ansible is the directory. Within this directory, this hosts, this is the file. This is a file. Now, if you observe, do I have my host details here? I just provided these two servers, right? This server IP address and this server IP address. If I just have an IP address here, I just provided an IP address here. But before doing any configuration in this server, let me see if Ansible can talk to these two servers. Before I do any configurations in these servers, let's first verify whether Ansible can connect to these two machines. Because if Ansible has to do configurations in these servers, does it require to connect? Without able to talk to this server, without able to connect to these servers, does Ansible will be able to do any configurations? Ansible is agentless configuration management. Ansible works using SSH. So how can I test whether Ansible will be able to SSH to these machines or not? Yesterday we discussed some command. That command is Ansible all -m ping. What is -m stands here? Module. Ping is one module. Is it like a normal Linux ping, guys? Is it like a normal Linux ping? No. It is going to do the SSH connectivity. Not only network connectivity, it is going to test SSH connectivity also. Whether Ansible will be able to SSH to the machines or not. I'm saying all. All in the sense, all the servers. All the servers which are part of what? I have lot of servers here. I have this server, all these servers. Does it mean all the servers, whatever I see here? No. Whatever is part of your inventory, static inventory. Now it is going to test. Why I am getting this error? Failed to connect. host via SSH. As a which user, as of now, it is trying to SSH to this machine and this machine. Ansible user. Ansible user. So this is my Ansible machine. I have some servers. My hosts, right? So in my host inventory, I provided those server details. In my host inventory, I provided this server IP and also this server IP in my host inventory. This is my Ansible server. Under this etc Ansible hosts, I have provided my IP address, right? So if you see, I provided my IP address. This server IP I have provided. This is my server IP 172 dot something. This is one of the server IP. This is another server IP. I have provided in my Ansible server host inventory. Now from here, I am trying to test SSH connectivity. Ansible is trying to test SSH connectivity to this one and this one. It is trying to test SSH connectivity when I execute that command. So as a which user it is trying to connect? If you see, as a which user it is trying to SSH? Ansible user. It is trying to connect as a Ansible user. Ansible at the rate that IP address. Ansible at the rate that IP address. Now, why it is trying to connect as Ansible user? Why not some other user? Because in this machine, Ansible machine, as a which user I am executing Ansible commands as of now? As a which user I am executing Ansible commands as of now in this Ansible server? As a which user I am executing? Ansible user. So that's why it is trying to connect these two servers also as an Ansible user. So first of all, do I have an Ansible user in this machine? First of all, we don't have Ansible user in these machines. Is it mandatory to have an Ansible user? Is it mandatory to create an Ansible user in these machines? Is it mandatory? Not required. Not required. It is not mandatory. I can connect to these machines as a whatever users I want to connect. So as of now, what is the default user I have in this machine? This is Red Hat server. This is Red Hat server. This is also a Red Hat server. What is the default user I have in this as of now? EC2-user. EC2-user. So in my host inventory, or while executing a command also, you can mention the username. While executing this command also, you can mention the username, something like this. -u. What is -u stands here? While executing a command or playbook, username. I can mention while executing a playbook also, or within my host inventory also I can mention. If I don't want to mention here, I can mention in the host inventory the username, something like this. Ansible _user equals to EC2-user, something like this. For this machine also I can mention. But again, if I just mention username, again will it able to communicate SSH, right? What is required for you to SSH? Now if I mention like this, it will try to connect as a EC2-user. It will try to SSH as a EC2-user. If I just mention username, it will not able to SSH. What are the ways you can SSH, guys? How many ways? One is username and password. Username and password. Another one is username and your PEM file. Third one, passwordless. Basically SSH keys. Passwordless. So if I just mention username, it is not going to work, because do we have Ansible user SSH keys part of this machine EC2 user? Do we have Ansible user SSH keys part of EC2 user in this machine? Passwordless? No. Then am I using PEM file? Whatever PEM file I used to create these servers, am I using that PEM file in my Ansible to connect? No. And first of all, I have not set the password for that EC2. So we don't have a password also. Now, if I want to connect with this user, EC2 user, can I use the PEM file if I want to connect? Now, yes. Suppose you already have an Ansible user in this machine. And in this machine, if you have set the password, can I use that username and password if you already created an Ansible user in this machine? If you already have an Ansible user created and you have set the password, if you have enabled the password based authentication, you can use that here. You need some user to connect. It no need to be an Ansible user. SSH. Ansible is SSHing. That's it, right? It no need to be Ansible user. Any user, any approach out of this one. Any approach as per your requirement, as per your use case, right? So you can use either username with PEM file, or you can use username, passwordless, SSH keys, whatever. For now, can I do this way? Username, and I will also use the PEM file, something like this, Ansible underscore SSH underscore password underscore key underscore file. I will give the PEM file, that PEM file path. So in my host inventory, I will maintain like this. Now if I have like this, in my host inventory, as a which user Ansible will connect to this machine? EC2 user. What way of authentication it is going to use? PEM file, right? So let me do this. First of all, do I have a PEM file in this machine anywhere? No, I don't have a PEM file, right? So first let me update my host inventory. Now I am giving like this, Ansible underscore user, EC2 user, Ansible underscore SSH underscore private underscore key underscore file. I'm giving tilde symbol, that PEM file. So where this PEM file is expected to be maintained now? Where this PEM file is expected to be maintained now? I have given tilde symbol, this file name. Where this PEM file is expected to be maintained? Pradeep is saying desktop. If you maintain in your laptop desktop, how it will be accessible from this Linux machine, from AWS machine? If you are maintaining this PEM file, you have PEM file in your laptop desktop, I mean to say in your local laptop, will it be accessible from this Linux machine? Nandabala is asking one super question. What is this DevOps 5? That is my PEM file name. That is my PEM file name, the key pair name. So where I can maintain? In Ansible home directory. But as of now, everyone is having that PEM file. Where do you have the PEM file? In your local laptop, right? I think as of now, in your PC, you have in your desktop somewhere you are maintaining. So I'll go to that. I'll open with the Notepad. Hope everyone has a Notepad plus plus or TextPad, whatever, Notepad plus plus or Notepad. I'll open with that PEM file. Copy paste, right? I'm going to copy paste that one. Don't modify anything. Don't modify anything. Don't modify anything. I can take this one. Is it a best practice to do that? Is it a best practice to do that? Again, not really. It's not a best practice. What is the best practice? I'm just explaining all the approaches. I'm just explaining all the approaches. What is the best practice? Passwordless. Passwordless. SSH keys. Okay. Otherwise, you can maintain this SSH keys also securely. This PEM file also you can maintain securely. That PEM file should not be readable from any other user except Ansible user. File permissions. Will I able to do that also? Even though I maintain that PEM file in my Ansible system, in the user home directory, Ansible home directory, file permissions. Will I able to make the file accessible, readable only for this user? None of the other users in the system should have access. I can do that way also. So I'm creating that file. I'm creating that file. Where exactly I'm creating that file? In this Ansible machine, because I've used the tilde symbol. The tilde symbol. What is tilde symbol? User home directory. Ansible user home directory. I'm creating that file. I'm copying that content. I'm copying that content. Don't touch, don't modify anything. Let's save this. Now, in my host inventory, I mentioned that path, PEM file path and username. Now, when I try to test SSH, as a which user it is going to connect? As a which user it is trying to connect? Someone is saying Ansible. How come Ansible? I clearly mentioned as a which user it has to connect. As a which user it will connect. In my inventory, I have mentioned EC2 user. It is trying to connect as EC2 user, but why? What is this error? You should be familiar with this error. You are already familiar with this error. What is this error? Permissions. Permissions of what? Permissions of what? The private key. Unprotected private key. The PEM file has wide permissions. The PEM file, whatever I have, this PEM file has a wide permissions. So I will change the permissions, right? I'll change, either you give 600 or 400, whatever. Now I have changed the permissions for that file. Now if you see this time, let me execute this time. Ansible all. Is it able to SSH? Is it successful? Is Ansible machine, is it able to connect to the host machine successfully? Then this is the prerequisite. This is the prerequisite. Then can I do whatever configurations, whatever tasks I want to execute in this machine, using Ansible, whatever task configurations I want to do, I can do that. Ansible is able to SSH. Pradeep is asking why 400? Permissions, man. Linux permissions. Read only. Bhaskar sir might have already explained. File permissions in Linux. So now I can do the configurations in this machine. What is the other way? Suppose I don't want to use this approach. I want to do other approach, SSH. What is the other way? You can use any one of the approach. Any one of the approach, right? What is the other way? Ansible, username and password or SSH keys. Now, in this machine, if required, I can create an Ansible user and I can set the password. I can create an Ansible user. Guys, do you know why 400? Why we can't give any other? Read Linux file permissions. Don't ask Linux questions here. Why 400? Because user level. If I have user level, does any other user can read that file in that system? This is Linux, which is discussed almost 2 months back. What is 400? What is the file permissions? Did you guys attended Linux or you missed? Bhaskar sir clearly explained what is file permissions, umask value, inode values, all those stuff. In umask values, I think Bhaskar sir might have already explained. So if you are not clear, let me tell you the permissions. Who can access that file? Who can read that file? Who can edit that file? Who can execute that file? Those are file permissions if you are not clear. So let me come back to this topic. If you are not clear, kindly I will suggest you to go through the recordings again. Recordings will be available for maybe another 30 days. No, Linux recordings will be accessible for next 30 days also. I think almost it is 60 days is over. Still it will work 30 days. I'll strongly suggest you to go through the recordings when they are available. If you are not clear about Linux basics again. Now let me come back to the topic. Now here, if I don't want to use this approach, can I create an Ansible user? Can I set the password for my Ansible user? Can I use that one instead of EC2 user? Instead of EC2 user, I can use Ansible user with password. With password, because Does Ansible user, can we access Ansible user with this PEM file? No, because that PEM file is only for the default user, easy to use. It will not work for Ansible user. Now, if I want to connect, can I connect using something like this? If I have an Ansible user and a password, if I have an Ansible user and password for that one, something like this. But do I have an Ansible user created in this machine as of now? Do I have a password for this? No. Now I can create manually. I can create manually, or I am already able to SSH. I am already able to SSH using Ansible machine. If required, will I able to create a user password? Whatever I want to do, will I able to do using Ansible itself? Can I create a user in this machine? Can I set the password for that user using Playbook? Since I am already able to SSH, I no need to manually create the user now, because is Ansible is able to make connection with those machines now? Is Ansible is able to make the connection to those machines as of now? Yes, it is able to make connections. Then if required, will I able to create a Linux user and set the password for that user using Ansible Playbook itself? Yes, I can do that. So instead of manually doing, I can do that. I will explain this playbook, how to write a playbooks in detail. Tomorrow we are going to start. How to write a playbooks and all, tomorrow we are going to start. I will explain in detail there. But by looking at this playbook, what do you understand? This is one YML file. This is one YML file. What I am trying to say here, hosts all. All in the sense what? All the servers. All the servers which are part of my inventory. So tasks. How many tasks I have here? I will explain all these things later. What is handler, what is task later. But how many tasks I have here? Some 4 or 5 tasks are there. So first task. What is this first task? What is this? As I already told, in the playbook, we are going to use what? Module. So this is one module. User is one module. Using this user module, what I am trying to do here, guys? Using this user module, what I am trying to do? I am creating a user with what name? User with what name? Ansible. Ansible. Now create underscore home. What it does, I am saying true, which means is it going to create a home directory for Ansible like /home/Ansible? Yes, I am giving shell access with this password. With this password, I am creating a user. User. Now, if I want to copy SSH key, if I want to copy SSH key from my Ansible machine, I am using one module. It is like SSH-copy-id. How did you guys copy SSH keys from one machine to another machine when you practice Linux? I think you have used SSH-copy-id command, or you might have used SCP. You might have used SCP, or you might have used SSH-copy-id. First, you have to generate SSH key, then you can do that. So I have not generated that SSH key, I will do that. Now what it does? This authorized key module, it is going to copy SSH key from the current machine, Ansible machine. This public key will be copied to that machine. To which user it is going to copy? The SSH keys will be copied to which user? Ansible user. Now here, what we are trying to do? The next task, what we are trying to do? We are adding entry in sudoers file. We are giving a sudo access. We are giving a sudo access to the Ansible user in those machines. Then what I am trying to do here in etc sssd config file, since I am copying SSH keys, if the password based authentication is enabled, I am disabling it. Password based authentication. I am disabling it because I am copying SSH keys. I don't need a password based communication. But if any changes in this SSHD config file, do I need to restart my SSH service? This SSHD service, do you see? Am I restarting that using this module? So whatever I do in these 4 steps in my document, I ask you to do manually, but will I able to do that using Playbook itself? Already I am able to SSH, so will I able to create a user, give a sudo access to that user, modifying the SSHD config file using Ansible itself? I can do that instead of manually doing. But it is YML playbook. It's human readable. Or am I writing any complex shell scripting here or any Python scripting here? No, we are not using. Sometimes in the interview they are going to ask, why Ansible? Why can't I do this using shell script or any other scripting? Can't I do whatever I can do using Ansible? Can't I do same thing using shell script also? Programmatically I can SSH using shell script. Programmatically I can execute some commands or script using shell script also. Why Ansible? Sometimes in the interview they are asking this question. Why Ansible? Why Ansible, guys? Can't I do whatever I can do using Ansible? Can't I do using shell script? We can do that. Why Ansible? Ansible is easy to use. Ansible has already lot of core modules. Thousands of modules are already available. Do I need to write any complex scripting? Do I need to be expert in doing the configurations if I want to use Ansible? No. We no need to write lot of complex code, less coding. But if I want to do using scripting like shell script, do I need to be expert in the shell script? Do I need to hire people who know shell script? And will it take time also to write the code from scratch? Everything from the scratch we need to write. So when it comes to Ansible, we have some predefined modules, predefined functionalities. Why Ansible? Is everyone clear? Why Ansible? Why not scripting? Okay. So this is already lot of functionalities are there. So let me create a playbook. I'm taking the content of this file. I'm creating one file in my Ansible machine. Create user. What is the extension of YAML? Right? YAML or YML. So I have this file. This is my playbook. That playbook has some task. First of all, I'm copying the SSH key, but did I generated this key first in this machine, Ansible machine? If I execute this playbook, does this task will work? Does this task will be successful? this task will be failed. So by default, any task in the Ansible playbook, if any task is failed, does the subsequent task will be executed? Does the subsequent task will be executed if this task is failed? Does the rest of the task will be executed if that is failed? No. By default, it won't execute. It will not proceed further. So now let me generate a SSH key, because this file is not there. Will it revert the previous steps? No, it will not revert the previous steps. It is not like a database transactions. It is not like a transactions here, right? Just configurations. So it is not going to revert the previous changes. But when you execute for the next time, whatever task which is already performed, is it going to be performed again if there are no changes? No. Whatever task which is already performed, those tasks will not be performed again. Then it won't make any changes. Now, I don't have this file. Let me generate. What is the command to generate SSH key? I am generating SSH key for this Ansible user for this machine. What is the command? SSH hyphen keygen. So if you want to use algorithm, that all those things, RSA, all those things you can leave. Otherwise, that is the default RSA key pair. So I'm just leaving blank everything. Now, do I have this file generated now? ID RSA in the user home directory in the SSH folder. I have a ID underscore RSA, ID underscore RSA dot pub, public key, private key. Now using this playbook, I am trying to copy that key to the Ansible machine. Before that, what it is doing? Before that, what I am trying to do? I am creating an Ansible user. If you don't want to set the password, you can leave this. If you don't want to set the password, you can leave this, because you are copying SSH keys. If you don't want to copy SSH keys, if you want to use password based authentication, you can use this. Now let me execute this playbook. Ansible hyphen playbook, the playbook name. This is the playbook name. Now it will fail. It will fail. Why it will fail? Let me tell you. It is failed to create an Ansible user. The first task itself is failed. Why? If you read this message, what you can understand? Only root user can create the users. As of now, as a which user Ansible is connecting to these machines? As of now, as a which user Ansible is connecting to these machines as per your inventory? EC2 user. As a EC2 user, will you be able to create the users? No. You need to be created as a root user. Permission, sudo access. But how can I do the sudo access? In this case, do I need to execute this playbook as sudo permissions? I want to do the sudo access. I mean to say privilege escalation. Does it mean do I need to execute like this? No. So in Ansible, there is a concept called privilege escalation. There is a concept called privilege escalation. What is the meaning of privilege escalation? Perform the tasks as a privileged user in the host machines. Root user, root permissions, sudo permissions. So how can I execute the playbook? and I can ask Ansible to execute with sudo access in that machine privileged user. There is one option called -b. What is full form of -b? What is the full form of -b? Become. Become what? Become a privileged user, become a root user, privileged user, sudo access. Does the EC2 user has a sudo access in that machines? If I use -b, does EC2 user can perform those actions as a root user, privileged user? Yes. So I can use that -b option. Now when I am using -b, privilege escalation. Now is it able to create a user? Now if you see, this task, create Ansible user, is it changed? You observe the font color. Is it executed? Changed in the sense that is performed, that configuration, the task is performed. Do you see in this machine is Ansible user created? In this machine is Ansible user created? Yes. Now is it copied the SSH keys? The second task, is it copied the SSH keys? Yes. Password based authentication. Password based authentication. We have enabled the sudo access. So -b, we are just doing privilege escalation. As a which user Ansible is connecting to those host machines as of now? As a which machine it has connected to those machines as of now to perform this task? EC2 user. EC2 user. So EC2 user, if EC2 user doesn't have a sudo access, sudo permissions, then what will happen? Just Linux only, guys. Do you get a error? Linux. You try to use sudo without sudo access, what will happen? Errors. Guys, Ansible is programmatically executing these commands by connecting to those machines, but Linux basics still Linux only. Now whatever user you want to connect, you are trying to connect to perform the configurations, in that case that user should have a permissions to perform those activities, otherwise that user should have a sudo access. If that user doesn't have a permissions to perform those kind of activities, then it won't work. Either you grant a permission, either you should have a sudo access. So that's why you can use one user, dedicated user, to do the configurations in those machines which has a sudo access. Now why some tasks are performing in green, why some tasks are performing in changed? What does it mean? What does it mean? What do you understand? Which means this task has done some configuration. This is changed. This is changed. So why this is not changed? I am just getting okay, because the password based authentication is already disabled. It has not done any changes. It has not done any changes. So whenever I am doing a privilege escalation, in the background these tasks are getting executed with sudo permissions. That is what the meaning of privilege escalation. Whenever I am doing a privilege escalation, right? So the task, whatever task we have in this playbook, those tasks are executed as a privileged user. What is the meaning of privileged user? Root user. Root user is nothing but sudo. Root user is nothing but sudo. Now If I execute one more time, what will happen? I have not done any configuration changes in my playbook. I am executing one more time. Is it reconfiguring those things? Why I am getting okay, okay, okay now? Why I am getting okay, okay, which means, do I already have an Ansible user? Do I already have an Ansible user in this machine, Yes. So already done. There is no changes. So Ansible is idempotent. Sometimes in the interview they are going to ask this question: what is idempotent in Ansible? Idempotent. Ansible modules are idempotent. Ansible is idempotent. What does it mean? If the configurations are already there, it is not going to make any changes unless until there is change in your script. Is it reconfiguring your system if those configuration is already exist? As of now, if you see, if I execute this n number of time, is it making any changes in those systems? No, because there is no change in the configuration. Let's say I am going to add one more user to my host inventory. Let's say I am going to add one more server to my host inventory. If I execute that playbook again, is it going to do the configuration in that server? Since that server, if that server doesn't have these configurations, yes. But in these servers already it has done the changes. Ansible modules are idempotent. Now let's say I want to update my password. Now let's say I'm changing my password to devops@2021. Now, how many tasks will be changed as of now? How many tasks will be changed as of now? If I execute this, how many tasks is changed as of now? Only this one. Rest of the others, it is saying okay, okay, okay. Ansible modules are idempotent, or Ansible is idempotent, which means Ansible modules will not make changes if those configurations already exist. Is everyone clear what is idempotent? Why I see sometimes in green, why I see sometimes in yellow or orange? Okay. Now we have an Ansible user created. We have an Ansible user created in this machine, and we copied SSH key also. In this case, if required, can Ansible can connect to this machine as Ansible user itself now, since we already created Ansible user. Even though I don't mention username, as a which user it will connect if I don't mention? As a which user it will connect if I don't mention? Ansible user. And I am not giving the password also. But how come this machine can connect to these two machines without password? SSH, that is correct. SSH only. But how come? Because did we copied the key, SSH keys? SSH keys, we nowhere share the password, right? Host inventory is different, your playbook is different, right? So did we already generated SSH keys and copied to these machines for Ansible user? We created an Ansible user, we copied SSH keys to this Ansible user. So will it able to make passwordless connection to these two servers? Even though I don't mention username also in my host inventory. Now, suppose I'm just giving like this. I'm not at all mentioning any username and password. As a which user it will connect? The current user. The current user. Ansible. Now if you see this time, how come it is able to connect? How come it is able to SSH? How come it is able to SSH? Because we have a Ansible user and SSH keys. Now, if I say like this, just I am mentioning username. This time will it work? I am just mentioning username. As a EC2 user, it will try to connect. Will it work? Why? Why? We copied SSH keys, right? Why it is not working? SSH keys are at a user level, not at a system level. So we copied SSH keys to that system. But for which user you copied SSH keys? Only for Ansible user, not for EC2 user. Only for Ansible user, not for EC2 user. So it will not work this way, right? If you want to connect to this user, you use PEM file, or you copy SSH keys to this user, or you use password. Is everyone clear? What is required for your Ansible machine to do the configuration first? First, it requires SSH connection. Then only it can do the configurations. Now, if I don't give anything also, since we already have an Ansible user and its SSH keys, is it able to connect now? It is able to connect now. First, SSH connection is required. Without that, you can't do the configurations using Ansible. Ansible is a configuration management tool, agentless configuration management tool, as Ansible uses SSH to do the configurations. Now, let me continue with Ansible user. Now, I have an Ansible machine in which I have an Ansible user. In the host machines also, as of now, what I have? In the host machines also, do I have an Ansible user? Do I have an Ansible user? Yes. Now, this is connecting like this. This is connecting like this. This is connecting like this for these two servers. Now, let's say I have a one more server. I have a one more server, maybe Ubuntu server or Red Hat server, whatever. If required, can I connect to this server using the Ubuntu server and its PEM file if required? In my host inventory, I can mention that one also. Suppose, let's say, I have this server. I have this server. This is Ubuntu server. It is not a Red Hat server. What is the default username for Ubuntu servers in AWS if you create? Ubuntu. So, suppose if I just provide the IP address of this server in my host inventory, I'm just providing IP address of that server in my host inventory. Now, when I try to test SSH, why it is able to SSH? Why it is able to SSH to only two servers? Why it is not able to SSH to this server? What is the problem? As of now, as a which user it is trying to SSH? As of now, it is nothing to do with permissions. SSH. As a which user it is trying to connect as of now? As a Ansible user. Ansible user. Do I have an Ansible user here in this machine, in this server? No. What is the default user I have? Ubuntu. If required, can I manually connect to this server? If required, can I manually connect to this server and create an Ansible user and copy SSH keys? If required, you can do that. I can SSH to this server manually using any SSH client like this. Can I create that Ansible user manually? Then it will work. Then it will work. I can do something like this: sudo user add hyphen this Ansible. I can set the password. I can enable password based authentication, or I can copy the SSH key, Ansible user SSH key manually. If I don't want to do this manually, I want to use still default user. Can I update my host inventory? In my host inventory, I will mention the username as Ubuntu for this server and its PEM file like this in my Ansible machine. In my Ansible machine, now here I can say Ansible underscore user is Ubuntu, because that is Red Hat server. Sorry, that is Ubuntu server, not Red Hat server. Then the PEM file. I use same PEM file for this server also. I use same PEM file for this server also. This time, is it able to make connection with that server also? This 113 server also. So these two servers, as a which user it is connecting? Ansible. For this user it is connecting, for this system it is connecting as which user? For this system it is connecting as Ubuntu user. So the basics are very, very important, guys. Don't by heart anything here. If Ansible has to do some configurations in any machine, what is required for Ansible to do the configurations? Prerequisite SSH. Is it mandatory to have Ansible user in your all the machines? Is it mandatory to use Ansible user? No. Is it mandatory to follow username and PEM file SSH? No. Is it mandatory to use username and password process? No. Is it mandatory to use SSH keys? No. Any one SSH approach. Any one SSH approach. Is everyone clear? Because I see people are by hearting. Step 1, create Ansible user in this machine, then set the password in this machine, then enable password based authentication, then give sudo access. Why you are doing that? Don't know. If I ask why you are doing that, don't know. That is not the way of learning, right? Why we are doing that one? Because Ansible need SSH, right? So we have done the first step. Now let's understand Ansible commands and some important modules. Ansible commands, some important modules. Now Ansible, how can I execute commands? Ansible, I can say ad hoc commands. Ansible ad hoc commands. So how we are executing commands? So this is just to verify the version. Now I can use this one. Module name -a arguments, arguments. I can execute commands like this. So this is also one command, Ansible all -m ping. What it is doing, guys? It is doing the SSH check, whether it will be able to SSH or not. Now what is this ping? -m stands for module. This is one module. Ping is one module. Like this, we have lot of modules. We have hundreds of modules like user module, copy module, service module, apt module, package module. Like this, you have hundreds of modules. Shell module, command module. Like this, you have a lot of modules. This module is nothing but what? In the background, it's a script, Python script that comes by default. So how to see the modules, whatever we have in Ansible? There is a command Ansible doc -l. Ansible doc -l. I can see a lot of modules when I execute that command. Ansible doc -l. So what is this? This is one module. This is one module. This is one module. Like this, you have hundreds of modules. If I scroll down, it will never end. You have a module called apt. What is this module? What I can do using this module, apt module? We can install packages. We can install packages in Red Hat or Debian based operating systems. Now I want to install some softwares, some software packages using package managers in Ubuntu. Can I use this module? Yes. Like this, you have a APK module, apt repo. If you want to add or remove the repositories to that package manager, you have that modules. If you see, I have modules like this. Hundreds of modules are there. If you see, I have a modules related to AWS also. If you see, I have modules related to AWS also. I have a AWS underscore S3 module. EC2 module is also there. So which means, will I able to create S3 bucket? Will I able to create EC2 instance also using Ansible? Will I able to do that? Yes. But is Ansible is a good option for infrastructure as a code? There is another category, infrastructure as a code. The way you have a configurations as a code. There is another category, infrastructure as a code. Infrastructure as code. Is Ansible is good option for infrastructure as a code? No. Ansible is not good option for infrastructure as a code. So infrastructure as a code, we have a Terraform, or if you are using AWS, you can go with AWS Cloud Formation templates, or if you are using Azure templates. Like this, you have infrastructure as a code. But nowadays, which one is widely used? Infrastructure as a code tool, infrastructure as a code software, basically Terraform. Why why Ansible is not a good option for infrastructure as a code? When it comes to Ansible, Ansible will not maintain the state of your infrastructure. Ansible will not maintain the state of the infrastructure. If I try to create EC2 instance using Ansible, if I execute that playbook 10 times, if I execute the 10 times, then how many times the EC2 instance will be created. How many times it will be created? 10 times, because it is not going to maintain the state of your infrastructure. So what is infrastructure? What is S3? What is EC2? We will discuss in AWS. That is after Ansible. Okay. After Ansible, we are going to start AWS. So there we will understand what is infrastructure, what is S3, what is EC2, we will understand. So Ansible is a not best option for infrastructure creation, infrastructure as a code. Terraform is a good option for infrastructure as a code. We can create an infrastructure also using code, like servers, networks, storage is infrastructure. So that can be done using S3, using AWS also, but that is not a best option. So what is the best option for infrastructure as a code? Terraform. Okay. Terraform is infrastructure as a code, but anyhow, the Terraform is out of our scope. We are not covering Terraform here, but I am just giving an example. Configuration management is different, infrastructure code is different. Even though we can create infrastructure using Ansible, that is not a best option, because it is not going to maintain the state of your infrastructure. So Terraform is a good option for creating a infrastructure. Vagrant is also used for infrastructure. Vagrant you can use in your virtualization environment. Using Vagrant, you can create a virtual machines, and you can do that, but in a virtualization environment, not in a cloud-based environment. Vagrant is outdated now. No one is using. Terraform is widely used. Terraform is not part of this course. Terraform is not part of this course. We are not covering Terraform in coming days. Okay, but we will give some basic videos. We will give some basic videos. 3 to 4 videos are already there on Terraform. You can go through and understand what is that. Now we have like modules like this. You see Azure related modules also. Does it mean, is it a good option for infrastructure creation, infrastructure provisioning? Is Ansible is good option for infrastructure creation, infrastructure provisioning? No. Ansible is only good for its own category. Infrastructure can be created using Terraform, but once I have that infrastructure, can I use Ansible to configure that infrastructure? I can provision infrastructure using Terraform. Then will I able to configure that infrastructure using Ansible? Yes. Ansible is a good option for configuration management. So with combination of Terraform and Ansible, will I able to automate creating the infrastructure and configuring that infrastructure without any manual tasks? I can create a servers, I can configure that servers using Terraform and Ansible with combination both. So Terraform is good in its own category. Ansible is good in its own category. Okay. Like this, we have a lot of modules. If I scroll down, it will never end. If I scroll down, it will never end. Like hundreds of modules are there, thousands of modules are there. If you see, there is a module called copy. What I can do using that copy module? If you see, there is one module called copy here. What I can do using this copy module? What we can do using this copy module? We can copy the files. Suppose if I want to copy some files from this Ansible machine to these machines, can I use that copy module? Using that copy module, will I able to copy files to all these machines or some machines? How do we know which module to be used? The documents, official documents, right? Go to the official documents of GitHub. description, right? Based on the description, based on the go to the official document and search the use case. But once you started using, slowly you will understand which module is for what. But no one can remember, no one can by heart all these modules based on the use case we are going to use. But again, I have a thousands of modules. Am I going to use all these modules in my everyday life? No, hardly few modules, the core modules, important modules. Like important modules like shell module, command module, copy module. Suppose you want to start and stop some services, service module. If you want to install softwares, M module, APT module. If you want to create users, user module, group module, like this we can use. Hardly few modules we are going to use on day-to-day life. But that doesn't matter. Whatever module, whatever options I am using, is the concept of Ansible will vary? No. At high level, Ansible has a host inventory. Ansible has a host inventory where I can list all the server details. Ansible need SSH connection to these servers. If I want to do some configurations, what I will write? I'll write a playbook. Playbook using what? Playbook using what? Playbook using your modules, whatever modules based on your requirement. Based on your requirement. If you see, I have a modules for Docker also. If you say I have a modules related Docker, does it mean Ansible is a replacement for Docker? No. Ansible is not a replacement for Docker, right? By using these modules, suppose Docker image module, will I able to create images, full push images using Ansible? So Ansible can connect to the Docker servers. Ansible can connect to the Docker servers and execute these tasks using this module based on the use case you can use. But as I already told, are we going to use these modules? If you are using Docker, does it mean you are going to use Ansible? Are you going to use these modules? No. Don't think that way, guys. Don't think whatever tools we are going to discuss here, you are going to use all those tools. Don't think that way. Have a mindset like based on the requirement, based on the use case only, we are going to use these tools. It is not like in every project you are going to use Ansible, in every all the tasks you are going to do using Ansible. Don't think that way. Unless until you have a specific requirement, you will not go to that tool. If you see, we have like this hundreds of modules. Let me press escape and Q. I don't want to search like this. Can I do the grep Linux? Suppose I want to search something like copy. Now I am seeing this. Using this copy module, what I can do? I can copy the files. We have a user module. We already used this module, user. What we can do using this user module? You can see the description. We can create the users, remove the users. Similarly, you have a group module. Similarly, you have a group module. What we can do using this group module? We can add, remove the groups. We can add, remove the groups. You have a M module. What I can do using M module? There is a module called M. we can manage the packages, right? Like this, you have hundreds of modules, thousands of modules. Now you can search here, or you can search in the official website also, official Ansible website. So Ansible user module. This is the official website, docs.ansible.com. So if I want to know more details about copy module, I can say copy here. I can search. It will show you some links, copy module. What I can do using this copy module, you can understand. This copy module copy files from local machine to the host machines. These are the arguments, options I can use for that module. Some examples. How can I use that module in my playbook? I can do this way. Suppose here also I want to see more details about one module. How can I see that? I want to see more details about some module. I want to understand what is that module. How can I use? So Ansible doc, that module name, So Ansible doc, that module name. If you want to see more details about that module, Ansible doc, that module name. What I can do using this module? If you read here, what you can understand: install, upgrade, downgrade, remove packages with yum package manager. If you see, this module is nothing but what? This module is nothing but what? This module is nothing but what? Here, if you see, the Python script. But do we need to write these scripts? Is it coming by default from Ansible? If you see, these are coming from by default Ansible, from Ansible. Ansible Red Hat company has created all these packages. Now, what options we can use? So these scripts will be executed in your host machines. But how come it is able to execute? I have not installed Python. But how come this Ansible is able to do those execution? If you see, by default, do we have some interpreter? It is saying it is using this interpreter for Python. So it is using some interpreter to execute that Python scripts. But if you see in this machine, I have a Python. In the Ubuntu server, I have installed Python. It is saying it is using Python 3. But in these two machines, I have not explicitly installed Python, but still, do we have some Python interpreter? To execute your Ansible tasks, Ansible configurations here? If you don't have these interpreters also, then do you need to install Python at least in the host machines again? If you don't have these interpreters also, in that case, do you need to install Python in your host machines for Ansible to work? Yes. Okay. Because that Ansible playbook, that Ansible tasks are nothing but what in the background? It's a Python script. Now, if I want to see more details, you can use this command. If I want to more details, I can use this command, Ansible doc, that module name. Suppose I want to see more details about this module, copy module. I can see something like this. What copy module does? Whatever you see in the official website here, right? Whatever see in the official website, same I can see here. What this copy module does? It can copy the files from local to remote machine or remote to remote machine itself. Like this, you have some modules: shell module, command module. What is shell module? What is command module? Sometimes in the interview they are going to ask, what is shell module? What is command module in Ansible? What is shell module? What is command module in Ansible? What is the difference between shell module and command module? The difference between shell module and command module. What is the difference? Shell module, command module, for what purpose I can use? Using shell module or using command module, will I able to execute some commands, scripts on host machines? Yes. But there is slight difference. There is slight difference, right? If you see command module, the command module takes the command name followed by a list of space delimited arguments. The command will be executed on the selected nodes, but the commands will not be processed through the shell. Whatever commands I am trying to execute using command module, that will not process through the shell. So variables like dollar, variables like home, variables like this pipe symbol, will it work? If I have these kind of things in my command, if I use command module, will it work? No. So if I have to use these options in my commands, which module I can go? Instead of command module, which module I can use, so that I can use variables like dollar home, these pipe symbols, grep symbols? Which module I have to use? I have to use a shell module. Shell module. So command module will be used to execute the commands, but it will not be processed through the shell. Your shell, that can be bash, sh, whatever it is. So can I use these kind of variables, operators in my command if I am trying to use command module? No. Then you can go for a shell module. Sometimes in the interview they'll ask, if they have a requirement on Ansible, they will ask what is shell module, what is command module, what is difference between shell module and command module. Now, can I execute some commands like this on my machines? -m command module -a my command, something like this. Will I able to execute some commands on all the machines? Command module -a arguments, this ls command. Now is this ls command is getting executed on those machines? Now ls root, am I able to see, is this command is getting executed in this machine? Can I see the list of directories in the root in this machine? Am I able to see the list of directories in this machine? In this machine. Now something like this, df-kh. Am I able to see the file system details of all my machines like this? This df-kh command, is it executing in all the machines, whatever is part of my host inventory? Like this I can execute the commands. But if I have some regular expressions like this, is it going to work if I use command module? Cat, I will use cat. Is it going to work this way? Command module? No. But in that case, can I use shell module? Can I use shell module in this case? shell, it is saying no such file or directory, etc/star. Let's say star here. That is that release file. Where do we have that information, guys? That OS related, I think etc only, star releases. Let me use star. I am using star, right? RELEASC. I am using star. It should work. Cat etc/star release. Yeah, there was typo. I think there was typo. That's why it was not listing. But can I use this with command module? If I use command module, will it work? No, because can I use this type of operators in my command if I am using command module? No. So instead of command module, I am using shell module. So this way, will I able to execute some commands, scripts in my host machines using Ansible? Will it be helpful for Linux administrators? If you are working as a Linux admin, you want to manage hundreds of machines. Does Ansible will be helpful for managing your servers for especially Linux admins? If you are working as a Linux admin, you need to look after lot of machines. So Ansible will help the Linux administrators who is looking after the machines, right? Suppose now I want to see how much memory is available in all the servers, whatever is part of my inventory. Is this command is getting executed in all the machines, whatever is part of my inventory? Now I want to see whether some process is running or not, whether Git is available in all the servers or not. Suppose if I am executing like this, now am I able to see whether Git is installed or not? In this machine, Git is there. But what about other two machines? Do I have a Git installed in these machines? Suppose I want to see some process, whether some Java process or some any other process is running or not in those machines. Can I use this shell command, shell module, or command module to execute the commands on the machines? We can use this shell module, right? So we can do using commands also. I'll wrap up the session here today. Tomorrow I'll continue from here. But I want everyone to have an Ansible machine, at least two machines in which you should be able to SSH. From this Ansible machine, you should be able to SSH to these machines and practice whatever has been discussed so far. From here, I'll continue tomorrow. Okay. Anyone has any questions before I start the session for today? If not, try to practice whatever has been discussed. Especially, I would like to request the October batch students, make sure you are attending all the sessions without any miss. 1 or 2 days, if you have some personal emergency, some health issues, that is fine. 1 or 2 days, you can skip, but go through the recordings. Go through the recordings 1 or 2 days, but don't make a habit of only depending on the recordings. I see half of the people are already not at all attending, but everyone want a DevOps job. Everyone want a DevOps job with good package. They don't want to attend the classes. They don't want to learn. They don't want to practice. They don't want to listen, but they need a DevOps job. That is not correct expectation, wrong expectation. You should put some effort, attend the classes, practice all the topics. So make sure you are attending all the sessions, make sure you are practicing and completing the assignments. If you miss one or two sessions also, try to recover. Unless until you attend the sessions, unless until you do the assignments, practice, don't expect a job. So is Terraform is mandatory? It's not mandatory, guys. It's not mandatory, it's good to have, right? It is like the based on the requirement, right? In the project there are different roles. First of all, let me tell you, there is a cloud admins or architects, we call it as a AWS or Azure, whatever it is. They have a different JD. What is their role? What is their role? They are responsible for managing or provisioning the infrastructure. But does DevOps engineer can work as a cloud admin, cloud architect, as AWS admin, AWS architect? Yes. But experience matters. Experience matters, right? You are just a 3 years resource, 3 years resource on DevOps, or 3 to 4 years resource on DevOps. Do you have that much technical capabilities, skill sets to manage everything, whatever we use in DevOps? DevOps has a lot of roles. DevOps has a lot of roles. DevOps is not like a tool or technology. DevOps has a lot of different tools, different roles. Infrastructure admin, network admin, storage admin, right? So based on the experience, based on the skill set, you are going to land in some area. You can become a cloud architect if you have that experience skill set. I have 12 years of experience, close to 13 years of experience in IT. From last 6 to 7 years, 6 to 7 years, I am into DevOps in cloud. I am managing my infrastructure. I know AWS, I know Azure, I know Google Cloud. I worked in multiple projects. I know how to manage infrastructure, how to provision infrastructure, all those stuff here, because based on the experience level. I worked on Jenkins, I worked on Terraform, I worked on lot of other tools like Azure DevOps, lot of other tools. Experience matters and your skill set. Just to start with, right? Start with 3 to 4 years of experience. You cannot become everything. You cannot work on each and everything, right? First of all, they will not hire you for that. They will hire you for some dedicated requirements, right? So for 3 to 4 years, you can be into CI/CD. You can manage deployment and applications in Kubernetes, like how to set up Kubernetes clusters, how to set up Docker, all those things. You can also manage AWS resources, not full, not full. If you want to become full AWS certified, there are a lot of other services. What is common? Git is common. Everywhere you have a Git, source code management tools, Jenkins. The CI/CD. How can you do the CI/CD? How can you do the CI/CD? Jenkins, right? Is the Jenkins is only software? Sometimes I will tell you the case. Sometimes I tell you the case. Lot of our students got hired into the companies. They started asking them to work on Bamboo. They started them to work on GitLab. So they will not expect you to learn each and everything, but the concept is matters. The concept is matters here. If I know Bamboo, Is it very difficult? If I know Jenkins, will it be difficult to learn and explore Bamboo? If you know what is CI/CD? No. So the DevOps has a huge set of tools, right? You never know in which tool you are going to work in which project. But the basics are very, very important. You should be very strong in Linux and shell scripting. Why? Automation. You should know what is SCM tools. SCM tools. I'm not saying Git. If you know what is SCM, today you are using Git. Tomorrow you are using something else. Will it be any difference? Major difference? No. So you should be very strong in what is CI/CD. Can I implement CI/CD using Jenkins? Can I done that using GitLab, or can I done that same using Azure DevOps? I can do that. Today I'm working in AWS. If I know AWS, later they ask me to work on Azure. If you know what is cloud, what is AWS, is it very difficult for you to learn Azure and do that? No. So the basics are important. What is daily activities in your job? Whatever Bhaskars are already explained, right? Based on the requirement. Based on the requirement. If someone is having 3 to 4 years of experience, company will allow you to work on Docker and Kubernetes. Yes, definitely. Definitely. Because nowadays everywhere Docker and Kubernetes are used. So they are expecting resources on only on Docker and Kubernetes also. Some guys are working only in Docker and Kubernetes. They are not at all worried about how to create a servers, how to configure the servers. There will be a separate teams for that also. Their primary focus will be only on Docker and Kubernetes to manage the applications. So all these things is required to get into a job. Once you get into a job, that depends on your project, that depends on your manager, your team, in which area you are going to work, we never know. Is everyone clear? According to your best role to learn all, have good exposure. That comes with experience. Don't sit on learning all the tools, whatever I am listing here. You will need at least 2-3 years to learn all these tools. You will never get a job. Get into a job and you will get exposure within the job only. If you want to learn all the tools, whatever listed here, you will need at least 2-3 years. By the time you will get another tool in the market. By the time you will get another tool in the market. So you will get exposure to the technology tools while doing your job only. Anyone has any other questions, any technical issues or any other questions? So will you show how to integrate Jenkins with Docker and Kubernetes and Ansible? Ansible we are not bringing. Ansible we are not bringing in between. We will see how to integrate Jenkins with Kubernetes, Jenkins with Docker. As I already told, Ansible is not required. If required also, you can write the playbook. Whatever command I am going to execute in Ansible, in the Docker machine, that I can write it as a playbook and use Ansible to execute that command. But that is not required additionally. Guys, we are going to cover in and out of whatever topics I am going to cover, it is not just high level, Docker, Kubernetes, in depth we are going to cover. It is your responsibility to utilize me. It is not my responsibility to utilize you. It is your responsibility to utilize me. If you miss the sessions, I can't help you. If you don't attend the sessions, if you don't practice, I can't do anything. It is not a school. It is not a college. I can scold everyone to sit in front of me. Okay, guys. I will not give much like bodha. I will not take or scold like anything every day. I just tell one or two times. After that, I am least bothered. If you attend, you will get the benefit. If not, no. I'll not repeat this kind of lecture every day. I'm just in the beginning itself, I am saying, make sure you are attending all the sessions. So onboarding project, what do we first? Suppose I am getting the project. Mohan is asking one question. I am getting a new project. What needs to be done? Any project first, what needs to, guys, if you have any other meetings, you can drop off. Someone is asking the question. There are, I'm answering for them. If you have any other meetings, you can drop off. So any project I got, as a DevOps standpoint, what we need from operations team, what we need, I got some project. What we need, do we need to first provision the required infrastructure? Provision infrastructure. What is that infrastructure? Infrastructure is nothing but what? We need to provision the infrastructure. Infrastructure is nothing but networks, storage, servers. It can be databases, whatever is required for that application. It can be load balancers, all those stuff. We need to provision the infrastructure. That can be in the cloud, that can be in your own data center. So if you are part of infrastructure team, if you are going for a dedicated teams, like if you go for a standard MNCs, there will be a separate teams for each and every area. If you are part of infrastructure team, core infrastructure team, what is your responsibility in that project? What is your roles and responsibility in this project? If you are into infrastructure team, you are responsible for provisioning in the sense creating, managing all these infrastructures for that project. What else we need? Developers, does developers require some SCM repositories to code? Does developers require some SCM repository to code? So as a DevOps engineer, what do we do if any new project is onboarded? Are you responsible for creating a SCM repositories, granting the permissions, managing the permissions to those SCM repositories? As a DevOps engineer, you are responsible for that. Creating repositories, granting the permissions based on whatever project. Like if they have hundreds of projects, I mean to say hundreds of repositories, for each each project, one repository. Then you have created a repositories, you have granted the permissions, the developers are committing the code. Now maybe you created an infrastructure or someone else created an infrastructure, that doesn't matter. If you go for a small companies, like startup companies, you are responsible for entire thing. But if you go for a standard companies, big companies, there will be a separate team within DevOps. So You created a repositories. Do you need to automate the process, continuous integration, continuous deployment or delivery as a DevOps engineer? You are responsible for setting up your Jenkins, setting up agents for Jenkins, setting up agents for your Jenkins, right? Creating a pipelines, all those stuff. Then you have an infrastructure. Using this Jenkins, you are integrating with all other tools, like you have a Sonar Cube for source code quality. You have a Nexus artifactories, where you are maintaining your packages like this, right? Then your pipeline will perform lot of tasks, then it will deploy in the given infrastructure, right? If there are any issues in your pipeline, your Jenkins pipeline is getting failed, you are responsible for checking why it is failed, what is the exact problem. Your applications are not getting deployed in the infrastructure. What is the problem? Is there any network problem? Is there any storage problem? Is my servers are running out of storage? Is my servers are running out of disk? Is the proper ports firewalls is opened or not? You need to troubleshoot and check, right? So integrating all the tools with each other to eliminate the manual intervention is called DevOps, in simple words. To achieve all these things, do you need to do something in SCM tools as a DevOps engineer? Do you need to do something in Jenkins? You are responsible for creating a pipelines, setting up agents, plugins, managing the plugins, taking the backups of your Jenkins. And also, if you are working in Kubernetes or Docker, are you responsible for setting up the required clusters, Kubernetes cluster, and you are responsible for creating a Docker images and connecting to the clusters and deploying those applications? That is what we do, guys. Any other questions? If you are still not clear, Bhaskar sir might have already explained all these things in resume preparation, but again I am trying to explain again one more time. Any other questions? Okay. If not, thank you. I'll continue tomorrow with Ansible. Sampath is asking, sir, once after create pipeline is created, everything is automated. Then what else you will do? Is your pipeline will continue to run like this without any issues? Once you create a pipeline, it will work, but are you not going to get any issues? You don't know. Definitely you'll get the issues, right? There might be a server issues, there might be a network issues, there might be a ports firewall issues. It will be never ending process, guys. It is not like you just create a pipeline, it is going to work for lifetime. You are going to get issues. Suppose your Jenkins server, lot of jobs are running, Jenkins server is running out of disk. Jenkins server is running out of disk. What will happen? Your Jenkins server doesn't have a storage. Will it able to build the packages? Will it able to get the data from SCM? Will it able to create? No. Jenkins pipeline will fail. Jenkins itself will fail. So that you will need to troubleshoot why, what to do. What to do? Troubleshooting, guys. What we have to do? We have to troubleshoot why that pipeline is failed, why it is not able to deploy, right? Is there any issue with infrastructure? Is there any issue with your application? Is there any issue with your network? That is what we do as a DevOps engineer. Example, where do we use shell script? Shell scripts is automation. Wherever you want to automate something. Now let's say I want to automate installation of some software. I can use shell script. I want to automate taking backups of some databases or some servers. I can use shell script. Shell script is for automation. Whatever you want to automate, lot of tasks you want to execute, those tasks you will write it as a script for automation. Bhaskar sir might have already shared the shell scripts, guys. So you refer that shell script, but based on the given requirement, you need to write. If I give one shell script today, is it going to be same shell script in your project? Is it going to be same shell script in your project? That's what I'm saying. Don't by heart. Today we are sharing some Jenkins pipeline. Same Jenkins pipeline. Are you going to copy paste once you get into a project? No. That's what I'm saying. Don't by heart. Learn the subject. Learn the commands. Apply those commands, concepts in your projects. I can give my pipeline, but that will not work for you, for your requirement. Nowadays, Python is used for more automation, especially in cloud. Especially in cloud. Cloud in the sense, using Python also you can automate infrastructure. Lot of things you can do in AWS using Python script also. Especially in cloud, we are using Python. For CI/CD, not that much is used. CI/CD still we can manage with Groovy scripting and shell scripting. How Ansible is related with the Kubernetes? Chandan is asking, what is Kubernetes? What is Ansible? You already know, Chandan, Kubernetes. You tell me what is Kubernetes, what is Ansible? Kubernetes container orchestration tool. For what purpose we will use? For what purpose we will use? Creating the pods. I mean to say deploying the applications and managing the containers. Okay. What about Ansible? What about Ansible? Ansible is a configuration management tool. What I can do using Ansible? Is Ansible replacement for Kubernetes? First, is Ansible replacement for Kubernetes? No. How both are related to each other? If required, I have an Ansible server, let's say. I have an Ansible server, let's say. If required, will I able to set up Kubernetes cluster using Ansible instead of manually installing Docker, Kubernetes, Kubelet, whatever we have done so far manually? Using Ansible playbooks, if required, will I able to set up my Kubernetes cluster self-managed? If it is self-managed, in the sense the Kubernetes cluster which we are managing ourselves, will I able to set up masters, workers, join masters with workers using the playbooks? Whatever commands we have executed manually, can I have those commands as a tasks in my playbook? Can I have my master machine details, worker machine details in my host inventory? If I execute that playbook, does Ansible can connect to the master machine and execute whatever commands it has to execute in master and whatever task it has to execute in worker to set up the cluster? If you want to do, you can do that. Now, is Ansible is replacement for Kubernetes? No. Ansible is still configuration management tool. It is not replacement. Now, suppose you are not at all using self-managed. You are going for directly managed Kubernetes clusters like EKS in AWS. Do I need to worry about how to set up the cluster, whether it is manual, automated? Do I need to worry about Ansible here? Not required. If I go for AWS auto scaling groups concept, am I going to configure those servers manually using Ansible or any other? Can it be done using golden images? Can it be done using user data itself? Do I really need Ansible there? No. So based on the use case, based on the requirement, you are going to use these tools, guys. It is not like everywhere. That's where people are getting confused, right? Sir, you told Ansible, but where Ansible will be used? Ansible will be used wherever it is required, not like all the places. If I'm going for EKS, did I really need Ansible to configure anything? Not required, right? And also for deployment purpose also, I'm using Kubernetes. Do I really need Ansible in between Jenkins and Kubernetes? I have a Jenkins server. Do I really need Ansible to just to connect to deploy this application in this cluster? Can I directly talk to this Kubernetes or Docker machine to deploy? Yes, I can do that. But if I really bring Ansible, if I really need to bring Ansible, I can bring that. I can have an Ansible. In that Ansible playbook, I will have a command or task which will deploy the application by connecting to the master. But do you really need, if you want to do only one or two machines, do you really need that Jenkins Ansible here in between your Jenkins and Kubernetes just to deploy? Whatever command you are executing via Ansible in this machine, can't I directly do it using Jenkins itself without Ansible? We can do that. But let's say you have this use case. I have normal Tomcat servers. I have 10 Tomcat servers, normal Tomcat servers. I want to deploy that WAR file in 10 servers. In that case, can I bring Ansible here? Instead of Jenkins is copying to each and every machine, can I bring Ansible here? I have a host inventory. I have a host inventory here. I can provide all these server details, all the Tomcat servers details, all the 10 servers. And I have a WAR file in this machine. Using copy module, if I execute a command or playbook in this machine, does Ansible can connect to all these servers and copy that WAR file? We can do that, right? So based on the requirement, based on the use case, you are going to choose appropriate tools, guys. It is not like everywhere you will use all the tools. If I have this type of requirement, I can use Ansible, right? Otherwise, I don't need Ansible. So what is your Kubernetes cluster size? I will explain that once I go for Kubernetes, because lot of students, first of all, they are thinking that I am teaching some Chinese or Arabic because they are completely new to Docker, they are completely new to AWS, they are completely new to Kubernetes. So they are feeling like I am talking some Arabic or Chinese. So I'll teach in that area once I go for Dockers and Kubernetes. Okay guys, any other questions? If not, I'll start the session. It's already 9:45. Okay, but I start the session at 9:15 itself, but additional 30 hours we are discussing some general questions. I'll start the session here. I'll continue tomorrow. Sampath is asking how many hours we need to work as a DevOps engineer to learn new skills. That depends on you, Sampath. How good you are grabbing the new things, technologies, that depends on your personal capabilities, right? For some students, it may take hours, months to learn. For some students, it may take weeks. I cannot judge how quick you can learn. That is based on your capability. Okay? So don't think too much now. First, focus on whatever we are teaching. Get into a job. Job will drive you. You no need to worry. The job, the DevOps job only will drive you. Drive you. In each and every project, you are going to get some new tool. You need to start exploring on that tool. Don't think too much as of now. Keep calm. Learn whatever tools we are teaching here. Get into a job slowly. Once you progress in your career, once you get experience, you will get exposure to all the tools, all the technologies. Not like within 1 year you will become a hero, right? Slowly, it takes time. The job itself will demand some tools as per the requirement, then you can explore. Thank you guys. We'll see you tomorrow with Ansible again.